the 11 Hair Band's definitive album. One album per band. And it has to be the same bands that were on the singles. So here's what they chose. They said that Bon Jovi's best album was Slippery When Wet. Now, I like albums with a lot of deep cuts, but not bad deep cuts. To me, Slippery When Wet, in my opinion, had some filler to it. Not deep cut filler, if you know what I mean. Deep cuts are songs I really like. So I chose 7800 Degrees Fahrenheit. I thought the album was almost all deep cuts. It was a very only moderately successful album for the band. So I remember buying this on cassette, and it came with trading cards of the band. I thought that was one of the coolest things I had ever, been surprised with a physical media release of music. That's a lost art these days. Okay, next up is Cinderella. They chose Long Cold Winter. Okay, Long Cold Winter. What can you say about that album cover? It's low effort. I can see how they got away with it because winter and it being all white and it being like the Cinderella logo. But yeah, that's the only bad thing about Long Cold Winter is that album cover. I wish there was some kind of, cool art. But my favorite Cinderella song album is Night Songs. I like every song on Night Songs, and I can repeat the whole CD as I'm sitting here writing my own lyrics and stuff. I like to have that background, get me in the right frame of mind to write music. So, Night Songs. Do you like Night Songs? Was it your introduction to Cinderella? Or had you heard the later albums first? Def Leppard. I had a feeling they were going to choose the third or fourth album for this one, but they settled in on Pyromania. To me, Pyromania is a great Def Leppard album with very strong deep cuts to it. I mean, I like some of these deep cuts as well as I do the singles, like Too Late for Love and the other ones on there. I mean, they're all good. So, but my favorite Def Leppard album, believe it or not, is an album that has nothing but deep cuts on it, basically, and that is High and Dry. Now, I recommend getting a version of High and Dry that has Me and My Wine added to it, because that was one of the reasons I wanted it back then, or initially, and I was surprised that Let It Go was on that album, and that was a great song, and Switch 25, Bringing on the Heartbreak, and other songs. I'm not sure if Def Leppard has ever played this album since then in its entirety on tour. I don't think they could possibly do that and still get the Hysteria and Pyromania hits in. But to me, that's my favorite Def Leppard album is High and Dry, just because the deep cuts are really great. Okay, Dokken. They chose Under Lock and Key. Wow. I agree with them for once. I think Under Lock and Key is a really strong album for Don Dokken. George Lynch You know, George continues his improved guitar playing, which I think would, you know, keep going to different levels until they kind of did those two lackluster albums in like the mid 90s. So Dokken Under Lock and Key for me is the same as Loudwire's choice. Okay, Motley Crue, they chose Shout at the Devil. I chose Shout at the Devil. To me, it's the Motley Crue album that I tolerate the most. You know, I like probably Shout at the Devil and Girls, Girls, Girls. Those two are my favorites. But Shout at the Devil wins because they just sounded like a hungry band at that time, even though it was kind of polished. So, next up, Loudwire said Poison, Open Up and Say Ah was their best album. Which it is, but I think the debut has the stronger set of songs. I mean, Open Up and Say Ah is, you know, pretty good, but did we really need that Your Mama Don't Dance and Your Papa Don't Rock and Roll song? I rather had an original song in place of that. You take that song off and the album is not nearly as good. So I'm glad they included it, but I wish they had included a strong original song in its place. Because it's not an album I can go to very often. But I do love the album, but that's based on back in the 80s when I had it. It's definitely my favorite album cover from Poison, the Open Up and Say Ah. I used to have the one before they censored it. And then I got the CD later on, and then that was the censored version, which only showed the woman's eyes, and that didn't make sense at all. So yeah, Look What the Cat Dragged In is my favorite Poison. I think the album just flies by. I think it has deep cuts, but not filler cuts. To me, Open Up and Say Ah had a few filler tracks. Okay, Rat. They chose Out of the Cellar, and I chose Out of the Cellar. There's just some strong singles from this that elevate the album, and then you have the the deep cuts that are really good. Though I think I prefer Invasion of Your Privacy album cover for obvious reasons better, the art. So as far as Rat is concerned, they chose Out of the Cellar and I chose Out of the Cellar, just based on the good strong set of songs. Skid Row, they chose Slave to the Grind. I chose Slave to the Grind. I think it's the last quality Slave to the Grind represented, the last definitive Skid Row album. I weren't a fan of Subhuman Race. I was okay with the Johnny Solinger albums. Then I thought the newest one with Eric Grunwald was pretty good. But I think Slave to the Grind is their best. You know what? The thing about Slave to the Grind, during the production of the album, they released a lot of bonus tracks. I remember this, because singles and CD singles had all these bonus tracks added to it. And back then I collected those. I had wished I hung on to them. So yeah. Okay, next up, Twisted Sister. They chose Under the Blade. I chose Under the Blade as well. Not much I could say about the album other than, you know, it's a really solid album, and it just does not scream hair metal to me. It's just solid hard rock. You know, hard rock, maybe basic regular metal, not extremely heavy metal. But yeah, so Twisted Sister, Under the Blade, I agree with them there. Okay, Warrant. They chose Dog Eat Dog, which I'm surprised they chose that. I was pretty certain they would have chose one of the first two albums. But I chose Dog Eat Dog as well. I think the lyrics are a lot more mature than, you know, those first two albums, so they're easier to go back to. In fact, if somebody were to happen in on you, you know, knock at the door and you got Machine Gun playing, they probably wouldn't think you were listening to hair metal, but those first two albums, they would know. Your secret would be out. Do you want your secret to be out? I don't think so. Okay, Whitesnake. They're saying that Whitesnake's 1987 album is the best. It's really hard not to, but I'm just a huge fan of older Whitesnake. I had heard of Whitesnake several years before that album came out, so I wasn't a bandwagon fan. So I was shocked that the album was kind of that good, you know, because it was moved away from what they had been doing, which I really had missed. So my favorite Whitesnake album, mind you, I'm saying album, because if this album had low effort artwork like, you know, Whitesnake's 87 and the albums that came after that, I would have easily chose 1987's album. But because Love Hunter has some of the best, most embarrassing album cover art I've ever seen, it gets the nudge just for that. So yeah, Love Hunter from Whitesnake. I think that came out in like 78 or 79. Yeah, I think it's 79 or late 78. But I would like to have a poster of that right there. Maybe one would, well, I can't make it appear or the video get taken down. But it's, you know, as controversial as they say the album cover is, it's no Virgin Killers. So what do you think of these choices from Loudwire? I'll go over their choices, but not mine. Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet. Cinderella, Lone Cold Winter. Def Leppard, Pyromania. Dokken, Under Lock and Key. Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil. Poison, Open Up and Say Ah. Rat, Out of the Cellar. Skid Row, Slave to the Grind. Twisted Sister, Under the Blade. Warrant, Dog Eat Dog. And Whitesnake, the 1987 LP. To me, all these hair metal bands they list, you can't go too wrong with any album you choose from these. You know, thinking about this, Rat even had a truly top-notch album after, like, I think it was around 2010. I think they had a pretty good album in 2010. I can't remember what the name of it is. Maybe it was Infestation or something like that. But I remember that being good. So, I had put up another video, same 11 bands, but my favorite songs by them that were also a Loudwire 11 hair metal bands favorite songs list. So check that video out if you haven't. Both of these will go up about the same time.